You're in the Business Insurance Zone with me, Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and contributing author to Backroom Technician. This week on The Biz, the Sales Support Services Series, and on today's show, Annuity Marketing with special guest Michael Prestwich, creator and distributor of Imagisoft.
When it comes to life insurance, annuities, long-term care, disability, or group pension plans, we're the news you can use.
Well, welcome everybody to the Business Insurance Zone. I'm your host, Steve Savant, and we're broadcasting to a nationwide audience of financial advisors right here in Fountain Hills, Arizona, home of America's largest fountain. And with me today, not only the creator of the marketing software, Imagisoft, but really helps us through all our sales. We're going to talk about annuity marketing all this time, Michael Prestwich. Welcome to our show, Michael.
Hi, Steve.
Well, listen, you know, I always, I look at a salesman who decides to write a sales track, right? I look at a salesman who decides to go software on me, right? You have to have some technical expertise. You have to have knowledge. You have to be able to do spreadsheeting. I mean, there's a lot of things that are incorporated. Talk about the software first, and then we'll get into the application and why it works for agents.
Okay. We started in 1982, and like you said, there's a learning process over the last 30 years to do all of that. But, you know, it comes down to the keep it simple, stupid idea. So when you do a sales track, the most important thing, I think, is to gather information. So the first part of the suitable annuity sales system, we took and used as a model the NAIC model regulation. And we just looked at all the things they're asking for, put them in this report, and then you just enter it in, and it keeps a permanent record of it. So there's two sides to it. You have compliance and you have sales. Ideally, they go together. So if you can do your sales process, and then if you're ever audited or if somebody ever looks at your sales practices, and you can show them, this is my sales practice, this is what I do, and it starts out following the law, we think people are much safer, and it's a good way to do it.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because, you know, generally when we talk about suitability, on my other side of our practice, it's always dealing with securities. But we have insurance regulations and issues that we have to deal with every day. You did your research first and incorporated. I don't know of too many systems that actually do the compliance side. They're just reviewing, taking the raw data, jamming the numbers, doing the tax issues, but they're not incorporating into the sales system, the actual protocols, the suitability issue. So how long is there, I guess my question is, how many laws did you have to throw in there?
Well, we just followed the NAIC suitability law, and it has a real nice area there that does what I did clear back before we started Imagisoft, before 1982. I mean, you got to ask their name, their age, their health, their goals, where are your assets, and I think you can use the law to your advantage. You can show them a copy of it and say, by law, I have to ask you these questions. So if they get too personal, you can be more general. You know, if you've got $100,000 in CDs, you can say $100,000. You don't have to say $121,618. But we need to know your general financial picture, your general health, before we can make any kind of recommendation.
So really, though, the questions we're asking, going down this list, this gauntlet for the client, the consumer, is really part and parcel of the compliance protocol.
Exactly.
So I mean, how could anybody really complain about that? We're actually, because we're licensed, we have to actually submit ourselves to those suitability requirements as salespeople.
You do. And if you don't, that's where you end up in trouble. And you also have to keep records, and depending on the state, the longest one is as long as the policy is in force. So
That you, as a licensed agent, have to keep it online, on a file.
You have to keep it on file. And
So
that
this
might be
software
30
actually,
years.
Oh, that's right. Well, I'm thinking forever. I mean, if you're saying if it's in force, and you're talking about an annuity that's paying out lifetime, you need it forever. Let's go back to that, though. So when I enter my data, it's collecting this data through this compliant protocol. I mean, the broker-dealers must love this, even though it's a fixed product. They love the ability that you've already went through the suitability issue. So I'm profiling my client, and once I'm done with all these questions, that actually creates a file that stays on my system forever.
It stays on ours. We have it in a SQL server in a secure environment. So we store that for you. A lot of agents, they change computers. We have a version where you can keep it on your computer if you want. Most of them like our SQL server. First of all, it's secure. Second of all, your computer crashes, gets eaten by a virus, your data is always there. So they like that
Give me a little definition of SQL server. What is that? I mean, just a little curious.
I don't know. You could just say it's a cloud server. I mean, it's SQL is a Microsoft technology, but if you hear the words up in the cloud or in the air server, or whatever it is, you know, that's what it is.
Okay, so I did all the due diligence. I wrote my data in. I have all my client information in it. Now, what annuities am I comparing? Am I comparing annuities side by side? Am I doing a general plan? What does this software actually do for me?
It's going to do a general plan. Part of the law, and this law is actually older than the NEIC suitabilities, you have to keep records of your sales process. So we have something that we call a document group. So if you've gathered some information, you can scan it in and put it into this document group. If you do a yellow legal pad and you're sitting there and you know, here's my rule of 100 and this is what safety is, put that in, scan it in, and keep a copy of that.
So you could take your personal notes and put that in the complete file that you've already set up that the software already does for you, actually.
Exactly. So you have one that you actually type in data, and then that data can move forward to other modules in the system.
Let me ask you this, because we're going to be talking about many of these modules that you have all this week. Once you populate for a client, is there information in there so you're not going to the next, well, let's say it's a 72T issue, let's say it's an RMD issue. Is that information good for every one of those software, or are they independent standalones?
That's the nice thing about it. That's why we call the technology we use data net. It takes all of the data, gathers it up in a net, and then forces it to each one of these issues. So if you do an RMD, then it'll look on your retirement and say, here, I've got $100,000 here. It'll already pre-stuff that plus the client's name. You don't have to enter information twice.
I love that. When we come back, we're going to continue talking about annuity marketing with my co-host, Michael Prestwich. And don't forget to enroll at IULUniversity.com for the best training, education, and sales support when it comes to life insurance for retirement income.
You're listening to the insurance industry's #1 resource for products, planning ideas, carrier information, and interviews you can use. When it comes to life insurance, annuities, long-term care, disability, or group pension plans, we're the news you can use.
Did you know the average 401k runs out of money just 7 to 8 years into retirement? Time Magazine, the Wall Street Journal, and many other publications have warned of the difficulty of saving with a 401k. But what if there was a way to create tax-free lifetime retirement income with no stock market risk? Good news, there is.
You know, living in fear of the next market dive is not the way I want to live my life.
Why would I go out there and take on risk when I don't need to?
I have a lot less stress knowing I can't lose any more of my retirement savings in the stock market.
Call now to receive your free, no-obligation analysis of what this retirement vehicle could do for you, a comparison to your current retirement plan, and a free video that explains this exciting opportunity. Start planning a retirement you can enjoy instead of worrying about future tax increases and stock market losses. Creating income that will last your entire life is the most important thing you'll ever do. Take control of your future. Call now for your free analysis, comparison, and video.
Well, welcome back to the Business Insurance Zone. I'm Steve Savant with Michael Prestwich. And remember, you can order today's materials. And don't forget, before we talk about today's materials, you could actually go out to Mike's site. We'll have it down at the bottom of our ledger here, right on our film. And I want you to go out there, try the 7-day free trial, right?
Yeah,
to try this yourself, see if you like it. And remember, while you're out there at our site, when you go out to www.thebiz.tv, always remember, you can click on the background technician. They're giving away their 30-day free trial offer, access to the best needs analysis and client education material that addresses almost every financial situation. And remember, before going forward with anything that we talk about on this show, always consult your tax counsel and legal advisor. And if you're FINRA licensed, always check in with your broker-dealer compliance officer. And those compliance officers, especially mine, is going to love this software that's already taken into account, right? The compliance and suitability issues.
Exactly.
I mean, we're living in a very big suit city, kind of. Everybody's always looking for different ways that we didn't disclaim, we didn't disclose. They didn't say, how was your process? How was your sales process? This all helps you to do that.
Right. If you look at the law, it says you have to have a process, you have to have a method. And so they can get you a lot of different ways if you don't have a sales process. And kind of like you're guilty unless proven innocent. So you say, well, I told her that. Well, show me in writing where you told her that.
does your process, does your methodology actually reveal these kind of questions that you would have already addressed with her, and you're saying this is part and parcel of this protocol?
Right. For most people, what they will do is they'll use their own sales products and their own sales process. But for our system, it's $100 a year for the basic system to add that document group and store all this stuff online. It will just prove that you did it that way. And you can organize it and have an electronic file that's kept essentially forever.
Now, you just brought up a big point here, is because really you're not pushing a product. The actual system is agnostic.
Right.
You're bringing your proprietary annuities or whatever you think you want to sell into your system.
Right, and then you scan that. So if you've got, if you put somebody in a lifetime income rider situation, you probably want to prove that that was suitable. How would you do that? One of the modules that you can plug into our system is a life expectancy questionnaire. So you say, you have the risk, Mr. Client, of living till age 98. This doesn't predict how long you're going to live, but you have the risk of living that long. That's why I believe that this long-term lifetime income rider that you have to pay a fee for is suitable for you.
But it doesn't, is it actually calculate the client? Is there a few questions, or no, it's just kind
No,
of
there's like 23 questions.
Wow.
And so if you're male, it starts out with a basic annuity mortality table, then asks you if you smoke, and then it asks you if you wear your seatbelt, and drink coffee, and 20 some odd questions.
to kind of give an idea of how long you think this is going to happen. All right, well, now I've done that now. I did my entire report. I imported my own scribblings on a yellow pad,
Right.
and I've used your protocols. Now I'm going to have a display. What is my actual product that I'm showing, this turnkey? I'm showing this to my client. This is my presentation.
Well, we have some presentations that are general in like what, if you're selling an indexed annuity, we have a general indexed annuity
Just for
presentation.
indexing.
Just for indexed annuities. It's kind of modular, so you can get different things and use different ones. There's one called Live, which is longevity, that's the risks you have. The other one is inflation. The next one is volatility. And the E is entitlements. And so, Social Security is under attack, and we just show a couple of slides that just says, you want to protect yourself based on LIVE. And it's mostly ideas, and then when you show that presentation, it makes a thumbnail of it, and it writes down the time and date you showed that to your client. So if you're ever in front of a judge, you say, this was the process that I used. I gathered this information, and you can show them exactly what you gathered, the time and date stamps, everything that you have. And then this is why I made this recommendation, which at the time was suitable.
I love best practices, and this is what we're really talking about.
Right.
We're taking best practices, putting it into a software system that actually understands the sales process as well.
Exactly.
It's not just caveats, disclosures, and disclaimers. Well, so I have this presentation, and I can show, whether I could show SPIAs in immediate payouts. I could do index riders, as you were saying. I could do, MIGA annuities. I could have any kind of annuity. It doesn't really care what it is.
Exactly.
It's just going to generate that. Now, have you found certain techniques that you have so many users, so many subscribers, that you've seen people are using this little idea. It seems to be working. Is there any one thing that stands out in your mind?
Not really, because all their information is private. So I don't, unless we're on the phone with the people and say, what are you using? We don't really have that information.
Well, I think that would be an interesting, not so much from looking at the client's material, but just saying, going to your subscribers with a quick email and saying, hey, what are you guys using? And see if there's a pattern develops. Because I've noticed in other software sales systems that some people gravitate to certain things over others, and that all of a sudden that becomes, well, why did you use it? And we say, oh, everybody should know that. So that'd be something I would like to look at. When we're talking about annuities, does it talk and address any of the tax issues? We know it's tax deferred. Does it actually bring that up? Is there a place to put in your tax bracket and things of that nature?
There is a place to put in your tax bracket. That's kind of a tricky area. We have certain calculators that actually go in and do tax. Our Stretch IRA, for example, actually has a tax calculator behind it. But it's not specifically for the tax.
But it could tell you, if I plugged in that tax bracket, it could give me an idea of maybe what the tax equivalent might be.
Correct.
Well, I like that, because I think a lot of people now are looking at annuities. They're suddenly becoming okay to talk about. I don't know what happened there. And now we're talking about not only tax deferral, but the impact it could have on other parts of our portfolio. That's our show for today. Remember, you can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, or email me at steve@thebiz.tv. That's the Buzz on the Biz for today. You've been in the zone, the business insurance zone.
You're listening to the insurance industry's #1 resource for products, planning ideas, carrier information, and interviews you can use. When it comes to life insurance, annuities, long-term care, disability, or group pension plans, we're the news you can use.